Hey team, welcome back to the Travel Creator Podcast. If you've never heard my voice before, I'm Laura. I'm a content developer for travel influencers, and I make your life so much freaking easier because content creation is hard enough. In this episode, I'm jazzed. I am jazzed for you to meet Jenna, who is honestly a treat. And I'm so excited for you to hear everything we're going to get into today, from why the heck we need to have self-care as travel creators, and how Jenna goes about doing just that, / how the heck can you enjoy a destination you're visiting without feeling like you constantly have to be capturing content. Don't worry, we're gonna get all into that today. So buckle up, grab a pen, a pencil. Nobody uses pencils. No. Grab something to take notes with because I know you're gonna wanna come back and listen to this one. So I'm Jenna. I am a travel content creator. Been one for 2 years and then been a content creator for the past 4 years. So long journey, but I'm here. And recently I've been mentoring, which has been like so fun and just so enjoyable. And I've always told myself that once I make it, let's just say, quote unquote, I want to help others because it's so hard. It's such a hard world in the content creation world. So I just want to help the best that I can in any way that I can, alongside like doing the content creation too, if that makes sense. That's amazing. When you were early in your content creation days before travel came along, what were you sharing about? I went through this whole plethora of different niches. I went from like self-care, fashion. Then I started talking about being a highly sensitive person because I consider myself like a sensitive person. So that was fun. But yeah, and then I switched it to travel 2 years later, and I've just stuck with that ever since. That's awesome. Wow, what a full circle. Love the niche you landed in. So glad it's travel. I love that your approach to content, or just like actually talking about burnout or actually talking about the realities of it, is so refreshing and nice, because I follow so many people who just talk about these beautiful places that they share about, and it's like awesome, cool. But I know that's not the reality. When you're like facing burnout, do you have any tried and true things you do to get yourself out of it? Or is it different every time? So I feel like for me, it's a little bit different every time. I think my biggest thing is, obviously, once I am burnt out, there's a whole plethora of things that I can do. But I think my biggest thing is trying to catch the early stages of it so that I don't then have to go into coping skills of coping with the burnout. Does that make sense? Like, I don't want to be burnt out. I know how much it sucks. So what can I do to like prevent that from even happening? And it's still a work in progress, but I think these are really relatable too, because content is it absorbs your whole entire attention. So I feel like the first thing that I notice is that I have this tunnel vision on my business, like nothing else matters. I'm not thinking about things that bring me joy on the outside of my business. And that's one of the first signs where I'm like, okay, I've started asking myself recently, like, what brings me joy outside of content creation and my business, and focus on those things. And a lot of those things are actually just cleaning, doing like normal things that normal people do. Cleaning, like cooking a nice meal, like going for a walk, going to the gym, stuff like that. So that's like the first thing I notice. And then going to kind of like the gym wellness aspect when I'm not moving my body a lot. So obviously content creation, you're sitting in front of a screen a lot. You're either sitting in front of your phone or you're sitting in front of your computer. So like when I notice I'm just sitting for hours on end, I'm like, I need to get up, get my body moving. Because it's true, like a lot of the hormones that kind of get released from just moving your body can get you out of the burnout alone or prevent the burnout altogether. So that's another. And the last thing, this is key, resisting the urge to break. I don't know if you've been in that position where you're like, just keep going. There's one more piece of content to do. Yep. your brain is fighting the urge to break. And you're like, I honestly find that's when you need to break the most, is when your brain is telling you to keep
Yeah.
going, even though it doesn't want to.
Yeah, definitely. I especially find like when I'm in that stage of I have so much to do, it doesn't make sense to stop and take a break because one, I've overcommitted, and two, I love what I'm doing and I don't want to stop. But when I do take the space away and then come back, I'm like, whoa, I'm way better at this. I'm actually enjoying it a lot more. And that was so good. And I have so many other great ideas that are way better than anything else. But it's when you're in that headspace of I can't take a break, it seems just psychotic to take a break. It's crazy.
Exactly. Like your mind is literally telling you like one more, and your body is I cannot. It's like a fight within
I
you.
know.
So you just got to recognize it and be like, nope, we're not doing that today, and get on with other things in life. But it's hard. It's
I
hard.
know. Like, why do we do this to ourselves? I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, why didn't I pick a career path that was so black and white? Like, why am I not? I
Yeah.
don't know.
Exactly, because content is so intertwined with your personal life. It's like, where do you find the like work-life balance with it?
Yes. And especially, okay, this is an incredible segue, especially if you're a travel creator and you're going on these trips,
Mhm.
because I always say that people started to travel because they love to travel. Nobody started to travel to become a travel creator. That was a second, what would you call that? A symptom or a something that happens after the fact.
Yeah.
But how have you been able to distinguish, or I'm sure it's been so hard sometimes when you're actually traveling in a place to just enjoy it instead of constantly maybe whipping out your phone or your camera or let's do this 110 million times. Talk to me about that
Yeah.
sort of balance that never is great.
Yeah, I definitely in the very beginning, it was purely just a passion, and I just took pictures when I could and left it at that, and still was like, "Okay, I'm on my vacation." Once
Mhm.
things started to progress with thoughtful travels is when I started to feel like, "Okay, like, I gotta show my audience this, and I gotta show my audience that," and, that actually exact situation happened on my Dolomites trip, which was about a year into thoughtful travels. So I could not sleep because I was so anxious about making sure I got the right content. And I like was so upset just because I was in this place that I wanted to be my whole life. Like, I should be so happy, but I was not happy. I was not enjoying myself. And that's where I kind of had to, after that time, I kind of had to tell myself, like, things have to change. I'm going to do this as something that's sustainable in my life. Like, my joy is to not be disturbed by this. After that trip, I kind of did like mental preparation for future trips.
Mhm.
If I was to go on a future trip as being this content creator who also takes videos, I have to find the balance. I have to not compromise my joy. And I think slowly I'm getting the hang of it. I think it still takes practice, obviously, but I
Yeah.
think the biggest thing is being confident in the first video that I take. Because I can go on and on about, oh, this wasn't good. Let me try again. Like, take the video and then stop. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if it's not perfect, like,
Right.
take the video and stop and look at your content later. Don't go into this rabbit hole of looking at it while you're on vacation, because that's when you're gonna start ruining your own joy.
Oh man, burnout. Of course, everybody who's ever done creative work experiences burnout and it comes and goes in waves. And oftentimes I feel like it hits me when I know I have so much work to do that I don't really know where to start. Sometimes that's when it kind of feels like, oh my gosh, I feel overwhelmed by opportunities here to choose what to work on first, which I understand is something to be very thankful for. It is super hard though. When I know I'm feeling burnout, I try and limit the number of hours I'm working in a day. And because I know my brain works best in the morning time, definitely not the late afternoon, that's when I'm not working. So if you are in a position where you're able to not be working at a certain time of day, I would take advantage of that. If you are not in a position where you can't just kind of log off or, stop work around a certain time of day, I would give yourself a hard boundary in the evening time and say, like, okay, I only have 90 minutes to work on this tonight and then I'm done. Because I find I do so much better work when I have the opportunity to go away from my computer and then come back rather than it just being all consuming. Okay, so if you don't know, I currently live in a rooftop tent traveling the US for an indefinite period of time. Yeah, that's a real thing. And I'm also working and running a business while I'm doing it. And it is the hardest thing I've ever done. It truly is so dang hard. Um, but I often find myself wanting to take a photo or a video of the beautiful place I'm in. And I don't stop myself from doing that, but I do stop myself from taking 10 million photos because honestly, the landscapes are so beautiful. My phone cannot do it justice, or like the camera, it's just not good. It's never good enough. And I know that I will never be back in this moment of being a 20 something living in a freaking tent. Okay. And so I'm trying to enjoy what I'm actually experiencing and taking 1 or 2 photos or videos and being done and trying to really be there in the moment because that's way more fun. And I think, especially for the creators who have been at this for a while, and then it's like you've earned the skills just from doing reps of how to shoot a good video. So just do one take and walk away, and that's the footage you get. And if it's not perfectly perfect, honestly, that's probably better because people want to see what it was like. They don't really care that it was perfect and polished because it's unrealistic and it's unattainable. But you, on your one little clip video, is going to be a much better piece of content. And I think that's so hard to realize. One, because travel creators are people who genuinely like creating content. And so you don't want to make it, your goal isn't to make a shitty piece of content. And you want it to be looking good all the time. And it's just such a hard thing in your brain to change, or just such a mindset shift to realize that C+ work sometimes is good enough in these cases. Okay, people are here because of you and not necessarily because of your incredible Zoom camera.
Exactly. And it is just not worth stealing your joy over. I'll always come back to that. Like, your joy is so important, more important than money, more important than like good content. Put your joy above everything else because that's when you're actually going to be consistent with this work and you're going to see growth.
Yeah. I'm sure it changes all the time, but if you're going somewhere with the intention of creating content, do you try and give yourself a schedule of, okay, on Monday, we're going to create the content? Or does it just depend on where you're visiting? I'm sure it depends on so many factors. Like, one day it might be pouring rain, or the place that you end up going that you didn't think was going to be awesome turned out to be awesome. I'm sure it's hard to figure out how to take that. I don't know.
Yeah. So I personally, this could change in the future, but where I'm at currently is I don't really have a list because I feel like if I have a list, I'm making it about work. I'm making it more about I have to get these shots and it's going to be in the back of my head. I currently take the approach of like, if I organically see something in my heart that I know, it's very feelings based. It's based on like when it feels right for me to take a piece of content. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do. And I get it. Because it's like, oh, I am having so much fun. I just want to share this with somebody, even if it's my mother. We got to take the video to share. Yes, I get it.
And I've been like that my whole life. I've always, like, whenever I've gone on vacations, I've always been like, oh, take a picture of me here because I like the view, or let me take a picture of this. So it's like just trying to get back to that place where it doesn't consume me.
So hard. It's brutal. It is brutal. Check-in time. Be so for real with yourself. When is the last time you had a beautiful looking meal and you just ate it? And you just ate it and you looked at the beautiful view ahead of you and you just enjoyed it. Okay. The next time you are having a beautiful meal or looking at a beautiful view, I challenge you. You can think of me, you can think of my little annoying voice here, to just look at it and enjoy it, because I promise the more attention you pay to this beautiful place, you will remember it better. It seems so obvious, it does, but it's so true. Have there been any sort of things you feel like you've done this year so far, or just overall in your content, that has made it helped you have more joy in it, or have just made it easier?
I think it just goes back to being able to just put my phone down again.
Mhm.
Like, not, I know I like already mentioned that, but I really feel like that's something that I discovered this year that I'm really happy about. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is progress to getting my joy back as a travel creator, and getting joy out of this job is, like I said, being able to just take that one shot and call it a day. And I'm not perfect. There's times where I will go over and over the shot like 2 or 3 times, and I'll say to myself, like, all right, that's it, Jen. Like, cut it there. And it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy by any means, and I don't know how it will look like in the future, if I'll
Yeah.
still struggle with it, but I do it because I like it. So it's just a matter of finding the balance of, like you
Mhm.
were saying, work and life. Like,
Mhm.
just documenting because I like to document versus documenting because I have to document as a content creator.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're getting out of burnout, I personally try and start with a project or a task that is fun. Maybe it's not the most top of the priority list, but maybe it's just something I love to do or enjoy. Is there anything that you do to help get yourself out of burnout? Because we know your warning signs now of
Yeah.
I am heading I am burning out. I am burning out.
I'm on the
How do you
edge.
kind of will yourself, push yourself back into doing the thing?
Yes, there's a few things here. I think wellness has always been something that I've also been passionate about. And I do think moving my body, like actually getting to the gym, making routines for myself, like, okay, I am going to go to the gym at this time, and I'm not going to take my phone inside and doom scroll while I'm working out.
Right.
Just moving my body has been something that will always get me out of burnout. I think that's huge.
It is so true. Like the after you're like, oh, I don't really feel like working out or doing something, and then you do it, and you're like, that was like free drugs. You just feel.
Quite literally, like, for the most serious sense.
I know, it's so
It
crazy.
really is. And then I will say a mindset thing that I find works for me. It takes a little time to get used to, but refocusing on tasks that are going to push the needle forward. So,
Mhm.
like, in the beginning phases of being a creator, I think it's just throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. And
Uh-huh.
that was like me for the first 2 years pretty much. Like, it took me a really long time to get out of that phase, but I think what switched was being able to trial and error with different tasks, such as, let me engage a little bit more and see if this helps. Let me post 3 times a week at the same exact time and see how that helps. I think once you get really zoned in on what tasks are working for you, it makes it easier to draw the line and say, okay, I did task A, I did task B, I did task C. Now I can shut the computer and be done. And it's almost like such a gratifying feeling to get those tasks done and then shut the computer and know in your head, like, I'm done with work. I've
Yeah.
done what I had to do. So now I just get to sit and enjoy my time with my husband and my time with my cat and do things that bring me joy outside of my
Yeah.
business.
It's so hard as a creator because there are always the list will never end. You could always be updating your whatever or changing your whatever. And it's really hard to know when to stop or to get lost in a side project and think you wake up one day and you're like, this project is the most successful thing I've ever thought of and going to be so important. And then it's okay, but is that really the most important thing right now in terms of
Yeah.
there's just so many things you can do, and especially seeing other people do so many other things, it's holy cow. You could be doing X, Y, and Z and all of this stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's why one other thing I think is like setting goals. It's crazy to say setting goals because I am such a type B person. I'm like a last minute person. Like
Mhm.
I arrive late to things. Like I am not organized. Like I'm working on it. I'm doing my best, but
Mhm.
my business, I'm like a very different person. Like I'm starting to set goals for myself. And I follow this method called SMART goals. It's like specific, measurable, achievable,
Yeah.
relevant, and time bound. Yep. And you like create a sentence. You're like, by September of 2024, I'm going to have this many followers, or I'm going to have my first hotel collab. And I find that when you actually write it down in a sentence in that fashion, that you hyper focus on that as your task. And that has been something that's really helped with burnout too, is because then I'll like stray away for a little bit and then I'll be like, wait, I have that goal. Let me get back to that
Mhm.
and focus on that. So I think SMART goals has been like a major improvement in burning out.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's amazing what writing down goals can do. And especially now we're halfway through, more than halfway through the year, and soon we'll be asking ourselves about 2025, which is horrifying, and I'm
Yep,
pretending that's not happening, but, uh,
literally.
yeah, that's coming. Okay, if you've never heard of SMART goals, they stand for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. And essentially, the more specific we can get with a goal, the more likely it is to come true. Measurable really means you need to have something quantifiable, so you can track your progress. Because basically, what gets measured gets managed, or there's some sort of quote like that or something. Basically, what is managed grows, or what you measure and manage grows. It gets a little funky in my head, but it's something like that. Achievable means it needs to be a little bit realistic. So, for example, for me, it would be a little unrealistic to say, I'm going to become a doctor in the next 6 months. Like, that's no, no. Your goal also needs to be relevant, which means it needs to make sense with your vision, your mission, all of those sort of things. It needs to match up with your morals as well. And finally, your goal needs to be time bound. So, if you give it a date, you're more likely to hit that goal by that date because there's this thing called Parkinson's Law. And it basically means if you have a year to, let's say your goal is in a year, you want 1,000 email subscribers. Well, guess what? It's going to take you a year to get the 1,000 email subscribers because the task fills the time allotted for that task. If you give yourself 6 months to get 1,000 email subscribers, you'll hit it in 6 months because the task fills the time allotted for that task. Look it up. It's absolutely fascinating. Maybe I should do an entire episode on SMART goals. Okay, to your thoughtful travels page, when you are taking these 2 years to feel like I'm building this thing from zero or from fresh, what do you feel like when you look back now was some of the highlights or some of the big picture things that helped you make it successful or was successful to you? So since you've grown it, what has felt like has been big in helping you grow or be successful, really?
I think the biggest thing comes down to the solid foundation of the fact that I am in a niche that feels authentic to me and has been something that has proven over and over again in my life. This brings me joy. This gets me out of my head, helps me cope with feelings sometimes.
Mhm.
Maybe it's not the best coping skill, but who knows? But time and time again, it has been something that I find so fascinating. I could talk on and on about, and I think it's because of finding that thing that I really wanted to talk about online is what
Mm.
like made people realize that I was authentic. I had really good knowledge to share. And I think it's a very relatable topic. People want to feel good and want to talk about things that feel good. So naturally, when you read about travel, let's just say you read somebody's post about Paris. I'm instantly like, I want to go to Paris, and like, it's fun. It's enjoyable. It's enjoyable content for me to read, and I think it's enjoyable content for other people to read. So I think I just found my niche, and I found my people who enjoy the same things that I do. And that was something that I never had beforehand. And I think
Yeah.
it's with that solid foundation that I started to see the growth and success that I wanted to.
Yeah.
Typically, there's a lot of like strategy that goes into it too. I was definitely like trialing and erroring a lot of different things. And what I didn't do beforehand was trial and error with the goal of actually reading my insights and like seeing what does good and what doesn't. Like I was just putting stuff out there. And to be quite honest, I feel like I had a very low self-confidence in my content back then. So I feel like my content wasn't even worthy of reading the insights because in my head, it all just did bad. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I didn't even think to read the insights because I was like, I think this is crap. So I'm going to continue to try to make better content. And then one day I'll read the insights. Does that make sense? But once I started to feel like, okay, I like this content, it's doing pretty good. Let me read the insights and see what's doing good versus what's not doing as good.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because of the creators I speak to and ask similar questions, their success in terms of growth all stems from sharing about things that they love and being true to themselves. And it's like, whoa, wait a second. This is so cliche. And there are 5 million different strategies you can take to get to whatever X follower goal is on your Instagram. But it really comes back to sharing about something you love. And because
Yep.
people can feel that passion come through, and it's like, hello, we cannot forget that this little social media app you're trying to grow on is social. Like, we are building a community. We are supposed to be a community. And it's so interesting because of course, some of these engagement strategies you do are going to be helpful, but they're going to be helpful if you like what you're doing and genuinely want to share about it. It's just like,
Exactly.
it's so funny because it can get so muddy. In reality, it's dead simple, but there is so much noise and advice on how to make it not so simple.
I know. It's so funny because I would listen to podcasts like this all the time to try to help me, and it never clicked. And now I'm that person on the podcast telling other people, and I'm like, wow, full circle moment. This is all it was, just finding something that brought me joy and like sticking to that. And yeah, it
It's
is.
crazy.
It is. But it's also kind of like a journey of like finding yourself and finding who you are and like who you want to be. And because a lot of the times when we create content, we think of our future in terms of like, is this how I see myself living life? And I think with the travel, it just came back to, yeah, travel is always going to be in my life no matter if I do this or not. So
Yeah. I might
mine's,
as well.
yeah.
It's so simple yet so complicated.
Yeah, I know. I
So
know.
simple yet so complicated. Do you feel like you have felt good effects from your community? How do you feel like engaging with people on the internet has gone for you? I always say 90% of the people you meet on the internet are good humans,
Yeah.
and there's this tiny percentage who are not. But
Yeah.
overall,
Yeah.
people are generally fine.
Yeah. Knock on wood, as of recently, I haven't come in contact with any kind of negativity. It's all been positive. But what I will say is that when I was first starting Thoughtful Travels, I came into it with a totally different mindset because I truly believe that the 2 first years of content creation, I was doing it for the money and for the free stuff. And as we all are, like, we're like, oh, content creation, like free stuff,
Yeah.
yeah. But then it became something I actually liked to do and I wanted to continue it, but I wanted to also meet people in real life one day and make a community and get to know more people outside of my own circle. So I went into Thoughtful Travels with the mindset of I'm going to try to make friends. Like I'm going to find people that are my size, engage with their content, not do anything that's like too forcing. Like I want to be friends with you right now, but just over time, just support each other. And I think one thing started to finally take off in terms of my follower count. Beforehand, I had around 800. I was kind of struggling with it mentally. I was like, I wish I was further along than I was, but I was still fine. I was still creating content from the point of view of I like doing this. But I think that strong foundation that I built of that 800 followers was so key to my success because we were supporting each other. It was helping me deal with my own feelings of, am I doing this right? Like, is there something more I could be doing to gain more followers? But then at the end of the day, people were actually like connecting with what my content was. And that made me so happy. So I was like, I don't know if you can curse on here, but I was like,
No, please. Everybody asks this. I'm like, please.
I was like, fuck it. I'm just gonna continue and who cares about the followers? And then literally, I kid you not, 2 months after that, I grew from 800 to 11,000 in 6 months because
It's
of a few viral reels. So I think once you let go of the numbers, it becomes a lot easier, less stressful, and more enjoyable. And you built a community. And
yeah.
great. It's
It's
such a good part of content creation.
it's funny how when you stop focusing on it something like so
Obsessively.
yes, that then it like takes off. And that's with anything in your life. And that's like some
Yep.
weird manifestation shit
Yep.
that somehow works. I don't know. But it's
Yep.
crazy.
It is. Honestly, there's that saying that's like, happiness is like a butterfly. The more you chase it, the more it will elude you. But if you turn your attention to other things, it will come and sit softly on your shoulder. It
Amazing.
might drop.
Seriously. It's yeah, we all need to take a break here. We all need to not take it so seriously. That's the hardest part too, is like when you start being a creator, you don't know necessarily what's going to come from it. And of course, the people you've seen before, it's in your mind of, oh, I'm going to go on a million free paid trips and get all this whatever. But there's the other side of the coin where it's you're doing this because you like it and you're not necessarily like you didn't start doing this because you were going to make $1 million. You started doing this because you genuinely like creating content and stop taking yourself so seriously, yet take it seriously. So it's a losing battle at times.
I think, like you said, not taking it seriously and not taking it like personally too. Don't. It's not like you only have 500 followers because like your content isn't good or like it has nothing to do with that. It really doesn't. It's just you got to keep pushing forward and your time will come.
That's the hard part too, especially with social, is that it's such delayed gratification, and that is exactly the opposite of what we get when we use these apps as a consumer.
Mhm.
Isn't we never get delayed gratification, but as a creator, you always do, and that is enough to make you stop.
Yep, exactly.
Ah. Okay, tell me about you deciding to delegate content. Was this difficult? Is it helpful? Do you feel like you have maybe more time and space to do other things? I would love to know.
Yeah, so I actually first delegated in March of 2024, so recently. But basically, the reason why I delegated, I actually hired my first VA. There's a few reasons. I was at this place where Belco Travels was growing, it was doing really well, and I knew it had potential. But then there's also this new discovery of like mentoring that I've always
Mhm.
wanted to do and I wanted to take on. So it was hard because I was struggling to even balance just continuing thoughtful travels and
Yeah.
thoughtful mentor. So putting another thing on my plate it felt like absolutely impossible. Like I learned from my previous mistakes over the past 3 years of continuing to put things on my plate. So I was
I
just like,
know.
no more of that. Uh, and another reason why I decided to hire a VA was I felt that I could improve my like emailing skills. I was not was so confident in my abilities and I knew I could do better. And I wanted to pick somebody's brain on like how they approach the situation. And so like maybe I'm just not doing this one thing that could help me, or maybe I am doing it fine, but I just didn't know. I needed like an example for me to see like, oh, okay, this is how you do it.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It helped so much, like, to just see somebody else in my emails handling it, how long of a break before they respond to somebody, or if somebody does respond, like, how to respond back. It's
Mm.
crazy 'cause I have been in this for 4 years, but there's still so much that I don't know, and I wanna be, like, transparent about that because it takes years to understand all
I
the ins
know.
and outs of what to do, and you can get courses on it and accelerate, and I have, but there's always still more to learn in my opinion,
I
and
know. A double-edged sword. It's
yeah,
so
exactly.
fun to learn, yet we don't even know what else is out there that we don't know about yet that we must learn. So
Yeah.
crazy. Outsourcing can be an incredible thing, especially if you're trying to grow your content creator business, because your ideas and thoughts and expertise are so important that they are too important to be spending your time doing things that somebody else can do for you. And that's exactly why I support travel creators in their content creation journey. You can work with me to write your blog post, manage your next Instagram caption, or even write a 52-week newsletter sent for you. All of those things I do for you because one, I freaking love it, and two, you're way too important to be doing those things. Okay, I want to chat with you about trending audios. Tell me how helpful you think they can be. Tell me your opinions. I would love to know.
Yes. So, this is actually the viral reel that I got on Thoughtful Travels was I was doing this thing for a while where I was trialing and erroring trending audios, and I realized, like, I was looking for them and I was sharing them with myself, and then I got into this, like, wormhole of, "Oh, wait, my algorithm is showing me more and more trending audios as I'm searching for them," and then
Mhm.
the trending audios would go from 1,000 reels utilized that audio to then 500 reels utilized that audio, or then it would get lower and lower, and I'd be like, all right, maybe I'll just try this and see what happens.
Mhm.
So I started using like early trending audios. So I would send it to myself. I would write down,
How many reels were used with that audio? Yes, yes.
and it seemed to be working for me pretty well to use these earlier trending audios. And so I was like, let me tell people about this. Like, this is I've never seen. I always see these posts where people are like, use this trending audio, and then I'll click on it, and it already had 2,000.
Yeah.
So it was like, that doesn't work. Let me try to help people be the person to find the early trending audio because I was starting to be that person. So when I came out with my process, it went viral. And every time that I talked about that process afterward, I talked about it like 3 or 4 more times, and I still incorporate it 'cause I think it's great, but it went viral every time. So, clearly it was something that was very helpful that worked for people and has worked for me. What I will say is that I'm the first to admit, like, it doesn't hit every single time, and you have to go into it knowing, like, could be a hard miss or a hard hit, and you gotta be okay with that. I think that's what a lot of people struggle with using like the early audios is like they want to be on the safe side and they want to know it's already trending, um, which is totally understandable. But I think generally speaking, when I use an early trending audio or a trending audio, I think for the most part, it doesn't hinder my success on my reel. It just pushes the reel's reach just a little bit further.
Do you find that, and maybe you've done both, of you're searching for trending audios and you might already have a video in mind, and it's, let's say it's just a B-roll with some text on screen and you just quite literally need some sort of music to go with it? Is that more often the case that you find that you're using trending audios for, such as like you've already created the piece of content and it just needs some music, or do you, and maybe you do both, are just scrolling through trending audio and trying to decide, oh, this is an interesting audio, I could create this piece of content from it. Like it might spark some sort of inspiration.
Yeah, so think for the most part, when using like the early trending audios, it's usually just like I have an idea in mind already, and I just need an audio to go with it.
Yeah.
Um, I think for the ones I actually have more of a thought out plan where it's like many different videos and I'm making a compilation and it's a long video and it has a lot of information in it. It's packed with value. Those ones I typically go for more of the current trending audios rather than the early trending audios. But I think I'll test out the early trending audios with like the concept of one video with one hook pointing you to the caption. I think those are the ones that it tends to work best with.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. There's so many, yeah. Like we said, there's so many different things you can do, and you just have to figure out what's working for you, but also in some ways pay attention to, that's also the best part of social, is that we get to see what other people are doing and if it's working or not, and then try and replicate and see if it's working for us. It's just one massive experiment that will forever be evolving.
Yes.
Yes. And try not to take it too personally, for sure.
Yes. 100%. Yeah.
Okay. I think what Jenna is doing with her trending audios is genius, because what is she's doing is coming to Instagram with her video already done. It's already created. She is confident in her idea and what she believes in sharing. And she's just using Instagram to search for a trending audio. She's just using that Instagram feature. What she's not doing is going into Instagram first, finding the trending audio, and then making her idea fit or morph into that trending audio. Now, I'm not going to say there's a right way to do either of those things. Sometimes both can be beneficial. But what I really love is that Jenna puts her idea she's confident in her content first and finds that trending audio, that really just that feature on Instagram to support her idea rather than shape her entire piece of content. I think that's incredible food for thought, and definitely something I challenge you to do the next time you're creating a piece of content. Really ask yourself, am I creating this because I love this idea and I'm just going to go find a trending audio to fit this idea? Or am I finding a trending audio first to then morph what I want to share into that piece of audio? I always offer people, if you have any icks or things you see people do that you're like, I cannot stand that people do this and I don't understand why they still keep sharing this or acting this way.
Right.
Up to you. It's okay if you don't have either, but
when you said like icks, one thing that came to mind was people who complain about the algorithm. You will never, ever catch me complaining about the algorithm because, listen, the algorithm cannot outsmart human connection. Like,
mic drop moment.
Literally, if you're in the place of wanting to connect with people, it's going to show. It's like you said, when you see that somebody is talking about something that brings them joy, you see it through the camera. Like you'll click on their profile and you can feel the happiness and feel the connection. So people know that. People remember that. Like you can't outsmart that.
I heard recently a piece of advice that was replace the word algorithm with people. So instead of saying what the algorithm wants. Just say, like, what do people want? Like, that's what we're trying. Like, hello. Again, it's so simple, yet so complicated.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. I think the algorithm will periodically pick up on your content and it will do well. But is that really what you want? Don't you
Right.
prefer human connection over what the algorithm picks up on your content periodically, which is not all the time? Yeah, so that's an ick of mine, and I will never do it. Even if I want to, I will never. So
You might think it, but you won't publish it.
right. I think, like, the biggest takeaway from everything is just the fact that I'll emphasize it over and over again now that it clicked in my head, and I wish it clicked in my head earlier than it did, but is to just enjoy content creation and try not to think of the benefits of it. Enjoy it because you like to do it, because you get a creative release from it,
Yeah.
and because it helps connect you to like-minded people. And that is the best thing that comes from content creation. It's not I know it's so cliche, but, like, it's not the free trips and it's not the hotel collabs. It's getting joy out of, like, creating the creation process and you perfecting your art. It's an art, like, and I think some people forget that. Even I forget that myself because there's so many distractions. But if you just come back to the place of, this is art, this is something that I can express myself with. Maybe I don't have the words for everything all the time, but I can express myself through art. And that's what's so beautiful. I'm, like, gonna cry. But, like, but,
Not
like,
on the podcast. I'm just kidding. You can cry on the podcast, but
it really is so cliche, but I think just remembering that and coming and grounding yourself in that and just always coming back to that is what's going to help you push forward in this career.
that's amazing. I just feel so lovely about the things you share online. I'm like, what does Jenna have for me today?
I really appreciate that. And
So good.
don't mind me shamelessly plugging
No,
something.
I was just about to ask, where do you want people to find you?
Yeah, so I have 2 pages currently. I have Thoughtful Travels, which is where I share all the travel aspect. That's more kind of like my artwork, if you will, like my passion project. That's Thoughtful Travels _ on Instagram. And then I do have my other page, which is Thoughtful Mentor _. And I currently in the middle of a launch of a product called Creator Growth Toolkit. And it's everything that I just basically talked about packaged in one thing that's actionable. We have 22 days where I teach you the tactics that I learned throughout my 4-year process. And it's something that's actionable. It's something that when you purchase it, you create a goal for yourself. Like, I'm going to do these actions to help myself grow and help myself learn about growth. And so that's coming out super soon. And you could check it out over on Thoughtful Mentor _
Amazing. I'm excited. I can't wait to see it and check it out and see all the scoop. That's so exciting. And I know you have put in a lot of work into that, and I know it will be amazing, and I'm excited. Congrats on you created something and you have it out in the world. That is freaking hard. Let us not forget.
It took so much work, but I was like, what would my past self need? You know, like,
Yeah.
what would my past self need to hear? And these are the things that my past self would have needed to hear. And I think a lot of other people need to hear as well. And
Yeah.
it has a lot of mindset stuff also, because I'm totally into that mindset, but it also has a lot of actionable tips to actually get you that you can apply that have proven to me get you somewhere into your career as a content creator.
We love actionable tips. I love them. Holy smokes, y'all. This was such a good episode with Jenna. Honestly, I think I need to go back and listen and take some of my own notes myself. If you want to, please go connect with Jenna on Instagram. She is a great follow. She not only has feel-good content, but also gives you actionable and practical tips at the same time. She's one of my favorite follows, and I highly recommend. I hope wherever you are creating this week, it is beautiful, and I wish you the best of it, and I will see you soon. Oh, shit. Oh my gosh, I almost just totally burped so loud. I didn't. I'm sorry, Marie, that would have broken your poor headphones. Holy shit. LOL. What the fuck do I want to tell these people? Also, it is 100 degrees. I'm doing this in my car, and I can't turn the car on right now or roll the windows down because I'm in a parking lot. And I know that the air conditioning blowing on me because I'm sitting so close will totally get picked up. So I also have to pee in the cafe I was working in, didn't have a bathroom. What is that about? Shit. Okay.